Okay, y'all, welcome to episode 6 of the Purposeful Talk podcast. And today I have a special guest, one of my most memorable teachers from high school that taught me a lot of stuff outside of school. And I'm very appreciative of her. And I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I know her as Miss Jones.
Okay.
And let the people know who you are.
Hey y'all, I am Rachel Jones. Some of y'all, if you went to Southwind, you might remember me as Miss Lawson or Miss Brown, but anyway, I'm Rachel Jones as of now and forevermore. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Alright, so basically the first couple things I want to talk about, well, one of them is, when did you know that you would want to be a teacher? When did it come about?
I knew I wanted to be a teacher from a very young age. When I was a child, I was a big sister to big cousin, so I always tried to be like my big brother and my daddy, who and my mother, who all instilled a lot of creativity in me. My mama taught us to read from a very young age, so I was a very avid reader. And my brother was heavy into studying Black history, Black studies, Black identity, and so I would always pick up his book. So I started studying that at a very young age. So I would try to teach my cousins and my sisters and them, and my teddy bears. I would sit everybody down and I would have these serious conversations with them. So I was telling my son the other day, I've pretty much been like this my whole life. I just so what I didn't know was that I guess as I grew up in the era that I grew up in, I'm an 80s baby. We thought we had to go to college, and so I didn't realize that teaching was actually a calling. That I didn't need college for, because I never learned anything about teaching in college. And I actually ran from teaching for a while. I ran from it. I don't know, but I've always loved young people, so it of course came back to me. And I taught in the public school system for a while. Didn't like what I was seeing in the system. Loved the kids, but that's what made me step out and have the confidence. I guess it was the way that I would hear to watch the children, actually, the young people paying attention to what I was saying. I was like, dang, they really hanging on. I could do this and do it for myself. So
you're right about that. So I think I talked to somebody else and they were talking about how they started, about their purpose of what they were doing with their life, and they go away and come back. Like, how did gravitational pull happen for you when you had that moment? You was on the fence about it, but what was like, oh, let me go back?
I got pregnant with my third child, and I had been waiting tables, and I love waiting tables too, because I like people. I love talking to people. I love putting a smile on people's face. So and I made a lot of money doing that, waiting tables. But when I got pregnant, I was like, I can't carry out these trades, so I needed a job sitting down, and I became a substitute teacher. And I can remember I was working at Wooddale High School. I was probably like 24 years old. And even then, I still have letters from students that wrote me letters then about how much of an impact I was making on their life. Then I have files and files of these letters that I've kept. But it started for me really young. And I remember thinking one day, dang, I can't be doing this with these kids every day. I need a job. And I was like, oh, I'm at work. And it was in that moment that I was like, let me figure out what I need to do to get back in here and actually become a teacher for real. I had a bachelor's degree. Went and talked to the principal, and she told me the little steps I need to take, because I want to teach high school, and that was kind of, I just followed them steps, and that's how I did it.
Okay, what's up? And like, when that happened, you got on track and you was like, I'm gonna do this. So when you sign up for all these different purposes, then you got to deal with the generational change. So I want to talk about this. So like, what have you seen from, what do we consider millennials, I think. And then the new generation is what, X?
I don't know what these generations.
What's the team?
I don't even know.
What have you seen? Because now I know each generation says, man, this next generation is gonna be something else or whatever. Like, what is the changes in this generation that you like? Okay, okay, y'all. You know, we gotta do this a certain way, or like when it was like, I don't know. Like, when was the moments for you?
For me, it's kind of been all along. It's been very interesting watching the changes, because when I first started, like I said, I was young. I was already young. I wasn't that far removed from the kids out of high school, but they were so different from me. I'm like, y'all, what in the world? And I ain't gonna lie, if the way it started for me, it was like the dances. I'm like, this stuff it look a little homosexual to me. And okay, because I'm from that knuck if you buck type of generation, you know, I'm like, nah, we ain't even, the women is hard in our generation. So I just noticed that young people were more accepting of things that we weren't accepting of necessarily, or we would kind of be like, hey, you maybe need to watch yourself or what. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. for me, the changes ain't so much the young people though, the changes are the parents. So in our generation, you know, my parents were strict. They were really strict. They had rules we had to follow. We had to be respectful. We had to say yes ma'am and no ma'am, and you know, we did our little stuff, but a lot of times we would kind of like sneak and try to hide, and because we had a certain fear or respect of our parents. Nowadays, and I know people say things like, well, the parents want to be the kids' friends. They don't even want to be their friends. They don't even want to hold their children accountable at all. So what I see is them handing their kids phones and devices at a very young age. And so the child is being entertained as opposed to disciplined and trained. Then thanks to social media, we got all this, you know, gentle parenting and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, disciplining a child, even if you choose to whoop a child, is not gentle parenting. You know, the world is not going to be gentle with them. And so how do you take a young man like yourself or like my children and turn you into a leader of a community, of your household, gently? Like, I can't train you to be a gentle warrior. Like, it just don't work like that. So
yeah, because the world gonna treat you way different.
And in general, it's no real balance to it. And so I what I've seen is probably more the shift in the parenting. So of course the kids are going to shift as a result, but the parents have to, you know, get back in there and take authority and take control if they're going to create and if not, then we need to see a rise in, you know, black boarding schools where you got community members like me who are willing to take these children on and raise them up there ourselves. Because I always say, if we don't become responsible for what's happening, period, like if we don't take it on as a community, like I could do it in my household, but then my kids got to go out and marry these people. So like, where's the balance?
Yeah, you're right. That is kind of the sad part, because sometimes in life people just, their focus is so all around. I think there's a thing too, is no like focus. Like with the parents, like not a focus. It's like, what is your goals for your child, right? Like some people are like, I don't know, or whatever. Like, and it's sad because I feel like our generation of parents is more involved. Like I feel like PTA and all that was like way more people. Now it's like so small, and the emails what they get for them to come up to the school.
Right.
Like, you're right about that. It is a change. Yeah, and I always like in the military they be like always you always think about the person at the top or whatever, you're supervising and stuff. And it's kind of the same thing. Whatever, even when I was supervising people, they be like, they're gonna do what you do. They're gonna follow what you do. You know what I'm saying? It was, and I always thought about that, but I was like, I don't think they would follow what I do when they're 18. Now when they're young kids, like I get about 18, I'm like, I don't think so. But I've seen many times when I was working, like the people that were supervisors and what they did and their subordinates, it was true. The example. So the leaders it is on the leaders, man. I know as much people don't want to take the ham on it, but parents are the kings and queens.
It is. They are. They supposed to be.
And it's like now it's like a shift on like energy. Like the kids have way more like power and authority now than they ever had. Like,
I think it's good to listen to them, because I also hear, you know, the older generation, they say, well, the kid, you know, they say speak when spoken to, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's good that the kids ask questions or whatever, but even being able to have, you know, mature dialogue with children doesn't mean you always let a child do it the way that they're children. They're going to take the easy route. If you give them the option, they're going to take the easy route, and you can't allow that. You ain't building no character, no integrity, no any of that. And like you said, not just building it, also doing it. Like this whole thing with the kids can't read. I'm like, but they don't see the mama them reading, daddy them reading. If they see you doing it, they may copy what you do. A lot of times you don't even have to teach it. You just have to do it and be it. And they'll do what you do and not what you say.
You're right about that. They will follow the leader on that one. And I guess my next question is more so the kind of the controversy piece I put. But so far as the school system and your experience with it, what was the driving force? Like, you know what? I gotta do my own thing. Like, where was your Dr. Dre moment?
Man.
Like, hey, sure, you had an album. Hey, I'm starting my own thing. I'm gonna call it Aftermath. Like, when was that for you? Because everybody always had them times to happen. When was it like, okay, you know what? I don't care if I gotta do it. Take 2 years to get it completed. I gotta start this today.
So I always wanted to have my own school, but when it came down to the school system, I didn't know how to do it. I had been on some boards to write applications and stuff for like charter schools and stuff, so I thought that was the route I was gonna take, and I knew that would take a long time. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get it done. But over time, because I did love the kids and I had a great relationship with like my students and stuff like that. But I can remember asking certain students. By the time I left the school we were at, I remember one of my students. And he used to cut up all the time. He would get suspended. He would just always be in trouble. Every time I look around, he'd be in the highway acting a fool or whatever. I'm like, why do you...
It's a lot of those at the school we're talking about. I'm not going to say that.
I mean, I'm like, why do you act like that? And this young man said to me, this is what he said to me. I have an IEP. They can only suspend me for a certain amount of days. They can't fail me. And I'm thinking, like, legally, he know his rights. Like, you're not stupid at all. You just taking advantage of this title that they put on you. And he was right. They couldn't fail him. We could only fail a certain amount of... Man, there's so much behind that. And so I promise that got my wheels just really, really turning. Because I was just like, hold on. So you mean to tell me they'll send you to jail for not bringing your kids to school, but they can have you here 13 years and they ain't got to teach you nothing? They taking the wrong people to jail. So if they have you here for 13 years and they not teaching you, but you get called the police for not bringing them in here, but they not doing nothing. And that's not to say it's not good teachers in there teaching or whatever. It's just to say that the system as a whole, and so I feel like this, when I was a teacher in the system, I didn't follow their rules. That's why I had the kind of relationships that I had. That's why I was able to teach and say some of the stuff, because I didn't care. I was like, y'all can say whatever to me, but I'll be like, okay, all right. Then I close my door and we do our thing. And that was because I'm like, they're young people. They're seeking something, and you hear the little undertones of, yeah, you heard that whatever happened in the neighborhood, and it might not have anything to... So I'm like, no, I'm not going to be afraid to address this because the kids are talking about it. Who's addressing this stuff with them? Yeah. So just being able to kind of sort of bypass those kind of rules in my personal space is what was helpful to me. But also hearing the kids say, you know, yeah, I'm just sliding by because they going to let me. I'm like, that's crazy. We could take a mind like this and develop it to leadership. I mean, to like straight leadership. I don't even know what has happened to that young man, but I know nobody was cultivating his genius. I know that. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I left that school and went to another school. And by the time I got to the other school, everything that I thought I was seeing in the school system, this school was so sloppy. They was laying it all out on the table, like literally laying it out on the table for you to see. It was very, very crazy. And the children were out of control. And at that time, my children were headed into middle school. And I was like, I can't let my kids go through this. I can't even contribute to this. Like, I know I'm doing my part. I know they love me and all that. But I'm like, it's got to be, I was like, I'm going to have to mop the floors at McDonald's before I keep contributing to this cycle of wickedness and foolishness. Yeah. So what I did, I actually went to my godmother's house and I vented to her because I didn't know what I was going to do. And she was sitting there listening to me, and then she was like, well, baby, you know, I'm finna go grade this boy papers. I got this little student I'm tutoring. And I was like, what you doing? And she was telling me that she was tutoring a homeschool student. And I was like, hold on. Do what now? And she was like, yeah, I'm just his tutor or whatever, but his parents home. I was like, hold on. So I can get some kids homeschooled, like get them pulled out of the system, homeschool them, and be their teacher. And that's literally how. And so I actually, that next day, I wrote a letter, shopped it out to some of my parents who was at the school that I was at. And they was like, man, I would definitely send my child to you. And that's literally how it started. And so I had a friend who I was meeting with who was helping me talk through and think through some things. And just from the beginning, I've had a lot of people that are kind of against the way that I do what I do. But I didn't care. I stuck with what I knew the kids needed, because what I did was I quit teaching and then I became a substitute teacher. So I started shopping the idea around to different young people, and they was like, oh yeah, I quit school today and come to that school. So I knew it was a good idea, and from there I just been rolling ever since. That's
good. So where did the title Coolnerds come from?
Wayne Nash. It came from Wayne Nash.
Okay. I see, keep it in the alumni.
Yeah, he was one of my students, and he was just so dope. He was so smart, and he was just so mature and just so cool. The ladies loved him, but he also kept his grades together. He just was just a together young man. He still is very much. And anyway, one day I asked him, like, Wayne, how do you do it? And he said, I'm just a cool nerd. And I don't know, it just stuck with me. So the actual name of the school is Anna Julia Cooper Educational Services, because I wanted people to learn more about Anna Julia Cooper, who actually, kind of like what you were just talking to me about, I don't know exactly how old she was when she died, but I know she was born into slavery and didn't die until the end of the civil rights movement. And so she literally was one of the first black women to gain her PhD. She ran a school out of her home. She just did a lot that went against the norm, especially in her day. And so she was a huge inspiration for me. And when I learned about her, I wanted to I wanted people to know more about her, so I named the school after her. But after a while, people be calling like, girl, Anna is my best friend. I'm like, I'm not your best friend, and my name is not even Anna. And plus, they be like, what is called? I'm like, educational services. And so anyway, the Coolnerds was just a good way to shorten it. That was kind of like our quote unquote mascot. So after a while, I just kind of rebranded it to the Coolnerds, and we keep it like that.
I feel that Coolnerds is a good one. And like, I guess like when it comes to like going to, I guess against the grain, like you say, what are those moments when you like, even though you know you're going against what society may say is, you know, they don't believe in, but you know your purpose and you know like you got a good heart. What are those moments for you for like when it comes to that?
Sometimes it make me real mad. Sometimes I get real frustrated. But I know I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I've been like that my whole life, to be honest with you. Even when I was young and in high school and even middle school, as a young child, I've always been kind of like, this is what I'm gonna do, and that's what I'm gonna do. And there's really not too much you could say to me to talk me out of it. The frustration with this homeschooling stuff comes with, especially black folks saying, well, they ain't gonna be socialized. I'm like, but look at how they're being socialized in this public school system. They're literally being they're being trained to be prisoners, literally, in so many different ways. It's not just a pipeline to prison, it's a pipeline to college, it's a pipeline to the military, it's a pipeline to mental institutions, it's a pipeline to the graveyard. Everybody is literally making money off of these children in one kind of form or fashion or another. And so
that's deep.
It's wild.
That big four you just said.
Boy, it's more than that. So my thought process is kind of like, what is that little cartoon? I can't think. I think it's Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty.
I don't watch the show, but I seen a meme and he said basically like, you know, I hear your boos, but I see what you cheer for, so I ain't really paying you no mind. And that's kind of how I think about things. Like I hear them, and when I said I get angry or frustrated, it's because I know as a people intentionally they have miseducated us to believe the way that we think. We think we can achieve and obtain these things and this matrix that they've created for us, and it's just not true. We literally have to pave our own path, and God gave us the ability to be able to do that. And so until we break out of that thinking, we are going to continue to be stuck. And we can look at generations and generations and all the stuff our ancestors did. You know what I'm saying? They done changed a lot of laws, but then they come back with this sneaky language, and they keep finding ways to entrap us. And so until we find ways to set ourselves free, you know, and it does make me mad. It make me sad. It make me angry. I keep doing what I'm doing, but I just keep shaking my head as I go.
But it feels good when you get the results you expected to.
It feels really, really good. It's a blessing. Even with the frustration, it's a true blessing. It's a true blessing because I know for a fact I'm raising up real thought leaders, and that's a blessing to me. And we ain't got to do that we ain't got to do that 95,000 people at a time. Yeah. Jesus only had 12 disciples. Exactly. And one of them was an op, so... You know what I'm saying? We gotta keep it small. I was
talking about that too, because you know he started Jesus started everything around he was 33 and stuff like that. Like I was talking about that last episode, like your age and stuff don't matter. Just know whatever it is and do it. Like just like what I want, especially here, because it's been a lot of people say stuff when it comes to Memphis students. Like they just basically fattening up the pig for slaughter. You know what I'm saying? Like the focus wasn't to like really be anything outside of like if the person works at any of these manufacturers around here, those big organizations. Like it's like they know, okay, well they probably gonna be unmotivated, probably not gonna progress really far. So since they happen, we just provide all these jobs that are close to minimum wage and just have them struggle. So if we're not developing it, I saw that firsthand, because sometimes, like especially when you're younger, you don't have those same opportunities, and they end up presenting themselves. But a lot of kids, especially like that were my age, I didn't take advantage of those. It just, just was like high school was just school, like I said. It wasn't. Some of them just felt it wasn't the place to be, or whatever it was. Like, and later on, it reflects. Like, education is important, and you have to be logical. A lot of people don't have that logic. Like, like you said, it goes down to the parents as well. But I think that I do think that the teachers definitely have really sometimes the equal impact as a parent. Sometimes. They do. Because some of these children get more out of the teacher than they would at home. And that's why you see that, like I think you're saying, like when the kids are bad or whatever, it's because they lacking attention at home, or both parents work 2 jobs, whatever it may be. But it all it's like a domino effect, like you said, like the Matrix. Like I think a lot of people don't want to be unlocked because it's scary. Like, it's scary to think like, I'm starting my own school. This thing about that is scary, but it's the matrix that people always talk about. It's doing a continuous thing, trying to think it'll be the same result, when sometimes it's definitely be a way better result. Yeah, and then we got people like you that want to step outside of it. So I'm glad you're doing it for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, y'all, we're back. We didn't have technical difficulties and like that. I was trying to make sure the camera no time out on me. Okay, so my next question is about well, I'll put it like this. I'm just say I'm ignorant to it. I don't really know much about it, but I do watch Dr. Umar and all of these other people that are well educated into the world of health and science, and how now it's going to people, you know, really taking things in their own hands, like not going to hospitals and stuff like this. So tell me your experience with it and explain it to me, for one.
Okay.
People that don't know about it, and then the people that do know about it, educate them even more on it.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm gonna give y'all my version. Everything is always my version of it. So actually, homeschooling, when I quit teaching, is what kind of opened me up to all these other things. So I was exposing my students to so much stuff, and I just had all this new time and this new experiences that I ended up going into gardening, herbalism, and then eventually I became a doula. So a doula is a birth worker who provides emotional support, physical support, education to a pregnant woman, as well as her spouse. Even if they have children, you know, you can get everybody involved in the birth process. And so it's just been really, really cool. The way that I came into the work, and I know racism, I know all this stuff. But I did not realize how many black women were dying in hospitals because, well, it's a lot of different reasons. They say that they don't listen to black women, but another piece is this. The way that doctors and medical professionals, a lot of them are educated. They're literally educated in college to believe that black folks can deal with more pain. You know, it's just all this stuff that's like, what? It's ingrained in the education. And so even when we're talking about education is key and it's important, and it was like, what kind of education? Because if we're talking about pseudo-scientific education, that's not education. That's miseducation, and that causes oppression, and that's kind of where we are. So I was like, well, dang, the black women is dying, the black babies is dying. But I'm like, okay, they're killing our men in the streets, killing the women and the babies in the hospitals. This is genocide. This is literally genocide. And that was how I approached this work. That's a way to combat genocide, the genocide of our people. I mean, and so through becoming a doula and working in different hospitals and stuff, I began to despise hospitals more than I even despise the schools. Because they are literally medically experimenting on people. So if a doctor or a nurse or a student doesn't have practice doing one thing, they will literally say this and that is going on with you so they can experiment and have some practice in that area. They're practicing on you. And so the way that I again approach it is like, if they're gonna practice on me, then I'm gonna practice on me. And so I had to start learning all these different things to be able to better care for myself and better care for my family. So we already wasn't going to no doctors and all this kind of stuff, but now I'm really like, if I wake up in the hospital, that's one thing, but don't take me to no hospital. Do not resuscitate, leave me alone, because they're gonna do things that we don't always understand. And they might not even understand, because that's how they've been educated. So it's just been very, very interesting. Now I'm actually a midwife assistant, and so my goal is to become a midwife so I can help birth more babies at home. My focus specifically too is black families, because what I've been able to do is help black men when they understand it don't matter how young they are, how quote unquote hood they are. When they find out what's going on with their girl and their bodies, and that there's actually something that they can do to help, to assist. When they find out they can just read to the baby while the lady is pregnant, while the girl is pregnant, you would not believe how many young men that I've seen just really, really step up to the plate. And by the time I'm done, the dad's the doula. I don't really have to do nothing except kind of walk around. And they're just doing it. And it brings them so much pride and so much joy. And so even with social media, like, black men ain't no fault, I have seen the most amazing fathers through being a doula, and it's just been so inspiring and so amazing that now I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'm birthing them and graduating them too, and that's kind of where my mindset is. And so I've also been able to train a lot of doulas. I used to work with an organization that would help train them or whatever, but I still send them to her so they can just go ahead and get that certification so they can get to going. So even like all my students are doulas, my daughters are doulas. My youngest son, I'm like, you can do whatever you want to do out here, but I'm gonna have you birth your bone baby and catch it too. And he's like, oh. So even that has made a difference in the way that they make choices of how they're gonna build their families and their future and their legacy.
Oh man, it's deep.
So it's deeper than just like massaging a lady while she having a baby. You literally, if I can teach you to read to your baby while you're in the stomach, you'll never have to hire anybody like me in the future because you will have solved the problem before it even gets started.
Man, yeah, and self-education is the most powerful too. This is what I can say to like a lot of people. They don't want to do the research and stuff like this. They just feel like, oh, they just go to the hospital. But it's a holistic approach of things. Like, and I think what do you advise the person is like want to know more about that and like in health in general, like where's some like people that you learn from that you like, hey, go look into this person? And
I'm gonna say, let me see, health wise, man, it's a lot of people, but as far as doula training, there are a lot of really, really good trainings to get into. If you black, or if you Latin, no, I don't want to say Latino, Lord have mercy, edit that out, please. If you Colombian, if you're from Venezuela, look into training from people that come from where you come from so that it mirrors your culture's practices, because birth practices are different across the board. And in the United States, what's happening is there's a lot of training that just reflects white practices, which actually, you know, back in the day, black women were birthing everybody's, but during slavery, black women was birthing the white people's babies and breastfeeding them and everything too. And so they literally took that field, they started calling our stuff witchcraft.
Oh man.
And then they professionalized the field and called them doctors, and you know what I'm saying? And that's just not, no. And it made it to where black women made it hard for black folks to even get into these programs or whatever. But anyway, this is what we've been doing. And so I would say look for teachers that practice what we practice as an indigenous people. So even certain things like, I'm going to eat my placenta. Africans don't eat placentas. Like, we bury them, but you know, make sure even when you're trying to educate yourself that you're not taking on. So the whole idea is that we're capturing our own history, our own culture, because we've already been westernized, colonized, you know what I'm saying? So we're kind of capitalized. We want to break away from that and get back to our original practices. So I would recommend looking for teachers that reflect your history, you know, your culture, your people.
Oh man, that's deep. Yeah, check your sources too. Y'all check your sources.
For real, because they be online talking about, I just made some elderberry for you, and I'm looking at it like, that ain't no elderberry, that's a pokeberry, that's a pokeweed, you know. I mean, please don't just follow what's on TikTok. I had watched TikTok and they had told me, they did.
I've been doing this for a month now.
Man, that is not how you gain education. And then even without it, the best way to learn anything is just by practicing. Because you may find what you're practicing is not going to work. That's what I like about homeschooling, birth work, whatever. Just living life. Everything is about just try it. And if it doesn't work for you, okay, try something else. Or if it might work now and don't work later, cool. Yeah. Keep trying, keep living. It ain't a loss, it's a lesson. So
yeah. Y'all heard it, not a loss, is a lesson. I think y'all, sometimes what happens is we just think like, oh man, this didn't work out and now I don't know what I'm gonna do now. Just refocus, recalibrate. You'll be good to go for sure. But last but not least, I wanted to give you your flowers, let you know thank you for being the teacher that you are, because you're not just a teacher. In my eyes, I see you as a life coach too.
Oh, thank you.
You helped so many children, especially my generation, stuff like that throughout your years you're doing it, and thank you for that, because it's a thankless job. It's an overlooked job, thankless job. Now you got your own, and that just puts you at another level. Like, just like, okay, I'm doing my way, teach my way, because I know that my way works. Like, just so bold of you, and you are definitely an example to other African American women.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely want to let you know that. But other than that, that's all we got at Purposeful Talk. We're gonna see y'all next time, alright?
Peace out.